they didn't know good and evil, how could they fall? Imagine the beginning. There is no guilt. There is no shame. There's no fear. Only harmony. And in the middle of the garden, a tree. Not the tree of evil. Not the tree of sin. The tree of knowledge. God says, "You shall not eat." Nothing more. No ethical treatise. No philosophical explanation. Just a boundary. And here a question is born that has crossed centuries. If they did not know good and evil, how could they know that disobedience was wrong? The modern mistake. We tend to imagine Adam and Eve as absolutely ignorant, like children incapable of understanding anything. But the text does not say that. It says they did not know good and evil. That does not mean they could not understand a command. A child may not understand moral theory, but knows when he is disobeying. The question was not, is this ethically incorrect? The question was, do I trust the one who gave me the boundary, or do I cross it? The serpent does not offer wickedness. The serpent does not say, do something terrible. It says something more dangerous. You will be like God. It is not an invitation to chaos. It is an invitation to autonomy. And that is the core. The fruit does not promise perversion. It promises independence. Before the fruit, good and evil were not internal categories. They were realities defined by God. The human being did not decide what was good. It was received. There was no inner conflict, no divided consciousness. There was innocence. But innocence is not the same as total ignorance. They knew one thing. There was a boundary. So, did they sin without knowing? No. They knew they were crossing a line. What they did not know was what it meant to exist outside harmony. They did not know what shame was. They did not know what fear was. They did not know what it meant to feel naked inside. The knowledge was not intellectual. It was experiential. The exact moment, they eat. And the text does not say, and they understood ethics. It says, and they realized they were naked. The first consequence is not philosophical. It is existential. They look at each other, and something breaks. The true meaning of the tree. The tree is not a trap. It is possibility. Without the possibility of disobedience, obedience has no value. Without the possibility of rupture, love is not free. The tree represents something terrifying, the option to choose. Evil, not as theory, but as rupture. Evil is not simply doing something while knowing it is wrong. Evil is breaking a relationship. Adam and Eve did not need to understand moral metaphysics. They needed to trust. And they chose another voice. They did not choose wickedness. They chose autonomy. Was the punishment unjust? Here the question becomes more uncomfortable. If they did not fully understand what they were doing, was it fair? Or perhaps the punishment is not revenge. Perhaps it is consequence. When you choose to define good and evil for yourself, you step outside the garden, not because you are arbitrarily expelled, but because you can no longer inhabit innocence. An even more radical reading. What if the fruit was not the fall? What if it was the birth of consciousness? Before the fruit, they were innocent. After the fruit, they are human. Self-awareness, shame, responsibility, mortality. The price of freedom. So, how could they do evil? Because evil did not not begin as knowledge. It began as choice. They did not need to understand the entire ethics of the universe. They only needed to know they were crossing a boundary. And they crossed it. The real question. This story is not only about them. It is about you. How many times do you know you are crossing a boundary, even if you do not understand all the consequences? You do not need to know all the evil in the world to know you are choosing. Freedom always comes with risk, and risk always opens the door to rupture. Perhaps the story is not about inherited guilt. Perhaps it speaks of something more unsettling. That humanity begins the day it decides not to obey without questioning. That consciousness brings pain. That freedom expels us from paradise. And then one final question remains. If they had never eaten, would they still be innocent? Or would they simply never have truly been human?